Here we are.
My job's done. I pushed record. You take it from here.
No, this is a team effort.
I mean,
I
you're hosting today.
I am? Why
You have
am
the
I
power. You have
hosting
the
today?
questions.
I had the questions on Tuesday. You were sort of the guest.
Yeah, this is nice for me.
We're not going to keep this rolling for perpetuity. We got some house cleaning to do today, folks. That's what today is. Today is house cleaning. And whether you like it or not, it feels good to clean your house, does it not, Bracken?
Yeah, it's satisfying, and then the end product lasts very little time with children.
Well, don't worry about that part. I enjoy things like that, working on the yard, cleaning the house, anything I can see that visually looks more appealing or better after it's done. That's very satisfying to me. Does that work for you?
Yeah, it's very satisfying. My thing though is it doesn't reprogram my desires in my brain. So I don't look forward to doing it. I dread it. I dread it. I do it. I'm like, why don't I do this more? I love this. And then the
Hmm.
process doesn't change. That pathway doesn't reprogram it. And I wish I could.
You just keep walking into walls.
I mean, that's my life.
Huh.
Do it the hard way.
Well, house cleaning. What could house cleaning mean? It means two things today on TRP, and it means we're giving away the two lucky winners 3 months of coaching. Isn't that right?
Yep.
Or do we have three lucky winners?
3.
Well, then we need to pick one more still. All right. So I guess we're giving away three people, 3 free months of coaching.
This is how cleaning goes. You uncover stuff you weren't planning on having to do.
Okay. And we're also doing a Q&A today because they piling up, folks, and nothing grinds my gears more than these Q&As piling up, and there's some good ones in here. So we're going to hit those today.
Hmm.
Problem is we picked two people and I forgot we had to pick three people. But I
Well,
had somebody I was heavily considering as a close third and I didn't choose them. So now I get to.
and we will not announce who that was. They're all on equal playing field now. No one gets to know.
Yep. All right. I random scrambled them up in my brain and we're going to give them away. So I hope these people are listening. All right. You ready?
You ready? No drum
All right.
roll. Doesn't work on these mics. Just rock.
All right. The first person that is winning 3 free months of the running public training plan of your choice is Sarah Nichols. Sarah, reach out to us, DM us. We'll get you going. You're going to have to say the next person.
Next one. Okay.
Okay.
So
You're
it's
out.
been
You get the
randomized
next.
in my brain. And the next one I'm saying is Brady Flower.
Isn't it Brandon?
Oh my goodness. Did I just.
Come
No,
on
Brady
now.
Flower.
Brady,
Brady
we met
Flower. He ran Zumbro with you, Kirk.
in Chuck Taylor's. If anybody needs help, it's somebody who ran a 17-mile trail race in Chuck Taylor's. Am I not right?
I am so glad it's online and not in person because this could be one of those where, like, there's some work to be done.
Yeah. So
I'm
that
just
is number
kidding.
two.
He's
And
probably a
the
delight to work with if he's willing to put up with chucks on the Taylor on the trail.
That's unbelievable. And the third person to win 3 free months of the coaching plan of your choice is Aprar Elawad. So you three folks, DM the Running Public Instagram, and I'm going to pawn you off to Bracken to get you onboarded. That's exactly how this is going to go. But I'll play middleman.
And just as a reminder, the choices you have to choose from are we have our standard run training plan, 5K through marathon. We have our ultra, which is 50K through 24 hours. We have our OCR plan, and we have our hybrid training plan. There are options. You can even spend a month on each one. I'll switch you over every 4 weeks if you want.
Okay, I like it. We got options, folks. So congratulations to those who won. I will say I had to split hairs. You had to split hairs on who to pick because unfortunately there were many of you that made a very good argument. But we will do this again, and you
Yeah.
can slide back into our DMs. Any other housekeeping? Anything you want to share since we recorded our Tuesday episode before we get into this?
Well, on Tuesday, we talked about that my quality workouts just need to be the minimum effective dose of best bang for my buck workouts. And I was sitting there and Lisa's like, didn't you just do an episode on this? Like,
Hmm.
yeah, we did. So those are the workouts I'm choosing. That's
Great.
my workout stable. the workouts that we talked about on best bang for your buck blank workouts, whether it's speed, whether it's long runs, whether it's hill, any of that, those are the workouts, the only workouts that I get to choose from for the first block of training. Money where the mouth is, Kirk. Money where the mouth is.
Um, I also got a few messages, people saying thank you and a very relatable podcast on Tuesday. Believe it or not, an
Excellent.
athlete I work with that I won't mention, but says very relatable podcast today. Appreciate you guys sharing, especially Bracken. I am totally in that chapter of my life where life, kids, work, husband gets in the way of goals. The last few years, I've made a conscious effort to stay in shape, but it's always been with sacrifices. Then she goes on to say, when I trained for my full Ironman, everything went to number 2 to 4 on the important list, regardless of what the reality was. And balance involving the family moving forward is important, although it feels selfish at times. She's felt seen and heard. Early morning alarms, that's the option, she says. Get my ass out of bed early and get the work done.
Isn't that the truth?
Sure is. All right. Should we jump right into this thing?
Dive in, Kirk.
So we have 15 screenshots. Let's see, my latest screenshot goes back to.
That's also not bad.
It's not terrible. It's you know what? I can't even tell you because the dates aren't on this. I'm sorry, but it's been probably 2 months. Let's call it. Oh yikes! My last screenshot's from January 31st. Never mind.
That can't be right.
That's what it says.
That fell through the sifter. That's all.
Well, then the next
We've
one's
done a Q&A since then.
but the next one's from February 2nd.
I don't like it.
But it could have been ones that we had in there and just didn't get to on our previous Q&A as well.
All right.
All right. So with that said, we're going to hop right into this baby. Maybe you'll learn some things. Maybe you won't. But probably will. Tyler Movzesin. Tyler asks, a possible Q&A question. Which races would you turn to in 2025 for fans of the sport to begin their running spectatorship journey? I hear you talk from time to time about Diamond League and World Major Marathons, and I'm curious with the best ways to keep up with happenings in the sport.
All right. So here's what I think, Kirk. I think you should go back on YouTube first and you should watch all of last year's races so that you start. It's like the prologue. You figure out who the main characters are going to be in the story and you learn, do I have some favorite characters? Are there some villains I want to root against? So I would start with that. So I would go back and watch all of the Diamond League distance races from last year. And then I would watch all the upcoming Diamond League races from this year. I think the Prefontaine Classic is must watch. I don't know if you've seen the mile field.
Yeah,
For
stacked.
it's like 15 deep of people who have run like 351 or 350 or 349 in a mile.
Crazy.
It's gross. In terms of marathons, I struggle watching marathons after the fact. They're so tedious that the interest to me is in the unknown. And once I know the result, it's hard for me to go back and rewatch. So if you're interested, go watch any marathon major. But this year, tune into all the upcoming majors. But YouTube is your friend and Peacock is your friend. They show all the major races.
I'm going to give you a list of accounts. Right now, I want you to stop, pull up your YouTube app on your phone or your computer or your smart TV, and I want you to subscribe to these channels. And they're at least going to feed you the ongoings that are happening, the ones that I subscribe to. Is that a fair place to start? I get all my stuff on YouTube.
Great way of balancing out my generalities, I just said.
Flow Track. You're going to go on YouTube and you're going to follow Flow Track. You are going to go on YouTube and follow Runner Space. Runner Space, all one word. You're going to follow NBC Sports. They're going to put all the Diamond League stuff on there, generally Olympic stuff, some of the big meets. They'll at least put Prefontaine, anything stateside. Total Running Productions. He's an account that basically does recaps or previews of hot topics in the sport of the endurance world. You're going to follow NCAA championships. NCAA championships. You're going to get fed other stuff, but when it's on in track and field and cross country, you're going to get it all right there. You want to interject?
No, I had an itchy head.
You are going to follow World Athletics. World Athletics, all track and field, and you are going to see Diamond League meets on that. World Athletics. Is this getting too long in the
Will you
tooth?
also get world and European cross country on there?
I believe so, yes.
Which is a surprisingly good watch.
Yep. You're going to follow Grand Slam track, which is the rage right now. Okay. And let's see. I'm trying to go down my list. I got a lot of outdoor stuff in here I got to sift through. I would start with those accounts. It's a good place to start. What will happen too is once you start watching those races and subscribing to those channels, you're also going to follow Sound Running. My bad, I missed that one as well. Sound Running. What's going to happen is you're going to start following these accounts, and then they're going to be fed to you in your home page on your YouTube, right? It curates what you enjoy, and pretty soon these random races will pop up that you don't even know were going on, and you'll see if you're interested or not. That's where I would start with those accounts. Hopefully that was helpful.
It is. Do you want to hear something depressing, Kirk?
That's my favorite thing to hear.
Do you want to know my 4 top subscriptions currently?
Yeah, they're karting subscriptions.
Throttle House, Pork Test Channel, Project Farm Extra Throttle House.
Well, I just I had to
Who am I and what happened to me?
You're a good dad is what happened to you, and you're a supportive
Mm,
father. I just subscribed to Lawn Care Nuts of Minnesota
yeah,
on Facebook, and Facebook is for the trolls, so I've been getting all sorts of interesting stuff on there. I'm trying to get
for
my
you.
grass looking good. Okay, is there any other accounts that I maybe forgot to add?
No, I honestly that's great.
Okay.
That is great. And what the beauty of YouTube is as much as we hate the whole algorithm game, it's just going to start feeding you new links to watch. You watch the
Mhm.
1500, it's going to link the 3K. You watch the 3K steeple, it's going to link the 5K. You watch that, you get to the end of the meet, it's going to link the previous meet or 2 meets ago or cross country or a marathon. And you could just you start discovering your own channels and which ones you have an affinity for.
Yep. All right. Next one from Michael Grieve. Michael, fist bump down in Iowa. We've been working together for a while. Michael asks, just listen to the strength episode. When you're talking about going heavy, what do you tell folks who are at a weight that they may need a spotter and don't have access?
Hmm.
The age old question.
Well, you're right. That is a conundrum. If you are to a point where you need a spotter, I think the next step is one of 2 things. You either invest in a Smith machine setup for your house or some sort of safety bars or some sort of rack support system that you can just go as heavy as you want with no consequence, or you start going isometric, or you start working variations. You go to front squat or Zercher, or you start using a Bosu ball for a Bulgarian split squat. I think you find new ways to get the muscle recruitment you need. In fact, I just was on a consult with someone yesterday, Kirk, who talked about this, which is their background was powerlifting.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, do I just maintenance lift as long as I have the strength needed to do this sport, or do I need to find other things that I need to work hard on? And I think that maintenance lifting doesn't always require you to and you need to if you're going to get the recruitment necessary to drive the readiness that you want for sport. And so if you have a 500-pound bench and you let it go down to 250 because that's all you ever need as a runner, you're doing 250 half asleep and you're really not recruiting much. And so you're not getting the injury prevention benefits that someone who started at 125 and now is doing 135 is actually getting in terms of stressing their body, because you're not stressing your body very much. So I think it's important to find ways to stress your body. And that either means get a Smith machine or something like that, which is sacrilege to someone with a 500-pound squat, or go isometric or get outside the normal plane of movement.
You originally said 500-pound bench, which I think is just an insulting number to use as an example. That's like saying, oh, if I'm just running like a 345 mile, should I keep doing that?
Right.
Like that, you just did that equivalent, but
But that is a good example. If you can run a 345 mile and I'll never have to be able to run faster than 5-minute pace for what I need, Doing reps at 5-minute pace gives you no anaerobic benefit whatsoever. So you have
Okay.
to find a way to get that anaerobic benefit in the weight room.
You brought it. You brought it together for us. Let's see. What is Michael probably talking about? Michael's talking about two lifts. He's talking about a barbell back squat and he's talking about a barbell bench press. I can't even really think of any other two movements in which you need a spotter for that you can't bail on safely, right?
Yeah.
And so the answer on a barbell back squat is to get safety bars. I think he has a home setup. So that could just be setting boxes up next to you that could catch the bar if you fail out. So
You can build some good safety
yeah,
boxes.
yeah, the bench gets a little trickier. They do make like a system where you can like use your feet and it puts, it's a spotter bar that kind of saves your butt.
Yeah.
I know athletes use those, but I'm actually not going to advocate for that. What I do at home is I don't put the collars on the bar, and heaven forbid I need to shimmy the weights off of one side. I could do it without losing my life. So I get rid of collars on the bench when I go
Yeah.
heavy. And I cut it
Or
close.
dumbbells.
One day it's going to end up on my chest and I'll figure it out. But the thing I want to actually get at is in this endurance space that that Brakken's talking about. I could not agree more. That bracing effect that I think is very important for power recruitment. At the same time, we can still go at an RPE 8 or 9. You can leave a rep or two in the tank when you stop your final rep, and you're going to be getting largely the benefits you need to. A heavy set of squats at 5 when you could have done 6 or 7 is still largely beneficial, right? And
Yes.
so we don't need to go to true failure or even one shy of failure really ever. It doesn't mean you're not going heavy. That's not what I'm getting at. But like I would just, if you have 1 or 2 reps in the tank and stay alive, that's probably better.
Yeah.
So in our space, that would be an okay for me.
I believe that, yeah. And dumbbells for bench if you want to invest. But honestly, I know people really hate Smith machines, but you can find them all over Facebook Marketplace if you want to not invest much, and they save your life. So you can do all your sub-maximal sets on something else and feel like a real athlete. Get on the Smith machine and rotate that bar when you get in trouble.
That's fair. And yes, you can find those secondhand everywhere. Although a lot of them are junky.
You might honestly at that point, if you're squatting that heavy, just like go to front squat or something and just do like a leg press machine or something if you really need to load that heavy.
Front squats are so annoying, but I
They're
do
so
them.
good for me as an individual.
Yeah, those big quadzillas of yours, I'm sure handle those nicely.
My rear chain's weak and my lower back is weak, and front squat doesn't let you be weak.
Yeah. All right, next one from Steph. Steph says, "Hi guys, I have a question for you. Feel free to use it for a future Q&A podcast. I
Done.
recently, don't mind if I do. I recently acquired a pair of Vaporfly 3s and will be running the half marathon at the Milwaukee Marathon on April 12th.
Whoops.
This happens all the time. Sorry about that, Steph.
2026.
What is the best approach to breaking them in prior to race day? Thanks in advance for any input."
The interesting thing about modern super shoes is that they're pretty much race ready out of the box, but your legs are not.
Hmm.
So
Explain.
there is no real break-in necessary for the foam or for the shoe itself. The upper is so minimalistic that there's nothing that needs to be done. Like there's no stretching out process in modern super shoes. They don't stretch. And the plate is what the plate is. So you don't have to break in the shoe to make it more flexible so it's more comfortable. It's not going to get more flexible really. And the foam gets slightly worse basically every time it gets used. It's incremental and then it drops off a cliff at some point. But from a shoe standpoint, you can put them on, lace them up, and race, and they will be every bit as good as they will ever be. But the carbon plate is stressful on your body. And so you have to get your calves and Achilles and feet, for the most part, those three things, some quads, used to running in the demands of the foot strike and the energy return of that shoe. The longer the race, the more you have to do it for. For a 5K, you can jump right into that shoe and not even worry about it. For a
Yeah.
half marathon, you're going to want at least I would say 4 to 6 runs minimum in that shoe.
Yeah, and I find if you're gonna have a problem with the super shoe of any variety, it's gonna get you in your arch for some reason. You're gonna blister in your arch, or something. I've had that with a number of super shoes myself, and I know others have as well. And it's just feeling out for some reason. And I don't know if it's the curvature of the plate or what it is, or just the design. Maybe it's completely coincidental that that's the case with some of these, but making sure the arch doesn't blister on you. And then my advice is to, first of all, start with like a quality session, like a Tuesday track session where versus a long run, just to make sure, one, you have a second pair of shoes available in case they do cause problems, but two, it's generally lower volume. So if you hit some mile repeats on a Tuesday on the roads, maybe it's 5 miles of quality versus your long run, which could be 10, 12, 15 miles, right? So you're just easing your way into it. I generally am going to want a long run with some quality in it as like my last final stamp of approval on a shoe, to make sure it can take that same stride over and over for, let's say, the half marathon. So if I have a brand new pair of shoes that I want to rip in, I may do 1 or 2 quality sessions with it, one long run, and I may not touch it again until race day, just because I want the magic to be there.
Yeah.
I find that some super shoes are incredibly damaging to the legs. They're firm, the propulsion as part of it, but it can be damaging. And then I find some, like the Alpha Fly, to be less damaging than most any normal shoe you wear because of the foam compilation. So it's a horse apiece on how damaging the shoe is from like a density perspective, like an impact perspective. That can change shoe to shoe, but I don't know. I guess I'll be curious what she did.
Do you remember the Olympic trials where the super shoes were suddenly there?
I remember a Boston race where they were suddenly there.
Was it LA? Is that where they held the trials that year? I don't know if it was LA or if it was
It was out east. Maybe
Atlanta.
that's what I'm remembering. It was where Nike just gave everybody a
Yeah.
pair of
Was
Alpha
that
Flies.
Atlanta?
Yes, I think it was Atlanta.
All right. So what happened there was that in order, as far as I understood it, you had to have a shoe released to the public for a certain amount of time at that point in the rule book for it to be eligible to be raced in. And Nike, in order to satisfy that, the shoe had to be either the shoe or a similar option had to be available to your competitors. Those were the two main rules of the super shoe early on. And Nike, A, in order to satisfy that, and B, in order to basically do the old drug dealer approach, they gave their samples away for free and got you hooked. They brought an Alpha Fly and a Vaporfly option for every single man and woman who qualified for the trials. And the day before, they had a booth or a room that you went back in there and they handed you both and you chose which one you wanted. And I don't know if it was CJ Albertson. There's someone, I don't remember who it was.
It
I
was
think
like 60% of the athletes chose to like switch out of the shoe they planned on
it
and
was
run
something
in,
crazy. But
like
I think that
60%.
the third place athlete had never run in them in his life, put them on, did a few strides in the parking lot and said, I think I have to wear these. And they were the Alpha Fly ones. And then I
Hmm.
think took third place at trials. So
Hmm.
that's how good these shoes are out of the box. He ran 3 strides in the parking lot and said, I'm going to stake my entire career on racing these
He's
shoes.
had a good career.
And it worked, right? So it can't, the shoe is fine. It's your tolerance to the shoe that you need to get accustomed to. And so, yeah, you have, if it's a 60-minute race, you have to take them past 30 minutes in training. If it's a 90-minute race, you have to take them past an hour. If it's a marathon, you got to take them probably past 15 to make sure that nothing pops up that's debilitating.
I wonder what the stat is exactly on that, but can you imagine being a marathon trials qualifier, being one of a few hundred, and then literally taking the shoes that you know, love, and are comfortable with, and that's your whole plan? I mean, that's like the main topic of conversation going, what are you going to eat? What are you going to wear
Yeah.
on your feet? Just be like, screw it. And I guess the overwhelming response was like, there were PRs been run. People were like, that was the best decision. I don't remember one big story of regret
No.
off of that. Anyways.
The only regret was I didn't want to do something new on a race day, and so I didn't. And there are very few shoes other than the Alpha Fly one that you could put your foot in and go, "Oh, wow, I am worse if I don't choose this." You just knew right away, if this works for me, it works. Like there, if my foot says, when I put this on, I'm faster. And they did it. But that is it's the biggest race of their life. And a lot of people swung for it.
That was a good throwback down memory lane. I remember that.
Mhm.
That was, I believe, even Nell Rojas, who we've had on the podcast, I believe, chose chose the Alpha Fly last minute over whatever ASIC she was going to run in or whatever. All right, Jesse says, not sure if you only take client Q&A, but I'd like to ask. Oh, why we take everybody's Q&A. I've done a half and a full in the last 2 years. This year, I booked a half in May and a full in October. Excuse me. Is it better to do a half plan than start the full plan after the half, or just start the full plan early to align with the half distance? Making a good case for getting a coach. LOL. Thanks for getting me through my run, fellas.
That is a good question. And these are one of those questions. This is one of those questions that whichever one you gave me to argue, I would feel satisfied with at the end. I'd think, yep, for sure. I could be talked into either answer here.
Okay, I'll start.
Okay.
Well, he prefaces this with saying, "I've done a half and a full in the last 2 years," so he is experienced at least, somewhat in these distances, right? And so I would assume that means he's done the correct mileage before both. But again, there's we don't know all the info here.
Yeah.
So let's say you did a proper marathon build previously, and now you're stepping down in quotes to the half, which seems more approachable. I would take my typical half marathon training plan and maybe I'd beef up a little bit of the weekly volume, but you don't need to be extending your long runs out to marathon duration before a half. I think that's actually detrimental to some capacity. So I would largely follow a half marathon plan with just sprinkles of additional volume from maybe your last lead in. Yeah, maybe you go up to 18 miles for your long run. Do you need to go further? Probably not. If you're getting ready for your marathon, you stretch it out to 22, but I would say half plan plus leading into the
Yeah.
half. And then I would say take a nice reset and then have a beautiful marathon build off a nice solid foundation you built for the half. That's what I would say. What about you?
I like it. And that's my typical answer. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to say that no one ever was upset that they got faster. Let's
Okay.
do a 10K training plan and then extend it up to the half marathon in the final 6 to 8 weeks and arrive there faster than you've ever been because you got 6 months to pivot to the marathon after this. Let's work on the skill of running faster. For most people, outside of absolute elites, you can run threshold pace and still be faster than half marathon pace. So you don't even have to do anything crazy, but I would work faster than half pace almost the entire time, knowing I've got a big marathon push. I want to arrive there with a higher horsepower engine. So I'm gonna start on that first. I'm gonna train as if the marathon doesn't exist. I'm gonna get faster, and then I'm gonna extend out to the half.
Yeah, your background is also helpful to know, right? In that regard, like if
Right.
you've done a lot of years of mileage, then your approach could be the best way to fastest both races.
Yeah, and I could argue the other side too, that everyone needs more endurance. Train for the marathon with a little speed of the half, but if this person is newer to running, generally you run better form when you run a little faster. I'm going to say let's just get better at running for a while and then bring that new skill back to the marathon.
Yeah, you zoomed in a little more. I kind of took a more like step back approach, fill in the cracks. And you're saying this is how I'd fill in the cracks.
Yep.
Yeah, I would over speed train actually a bit more. And I like that idea. It's interesting in my marathon build right now. I'm 5 weeks out from this weekend. And I've been doing like marathon plus work. So like marathon pace, like half marathon pace, I'm focusing a lot on, but I haven't dipped into like the 10K pace range. I'm touching, right? I'm doing 400 finishers and squeezing stuff in and it's working, but I'm wondering, okay, in my half prep, I was touching slightly faster pacing, but now I'm doing more volume at just slightly slower pacing. And I'm trying to figure how is that going to play itself out? It's an interesting experiment, right?
Mhm.
Because I can't run 10K pace for 12 miles of quality. It's not going to work, but I could run half marathon pace to full pace for 12 miles of quality, which I did on Tuesday. And so I'm trying to figure it out. It's an interesting place to be.
It is. It is. And there's a difference between half marathon stride and full marathon stride. Even though they're only one deviation apart,
It's twice as long. It's not even the same stratosphere.
it might be the biggest difference in stride between any two distances.
That's why I agree.
So it's yeah, the marathon is its own entity. Then it's a it is a difficult distance to get right. The half's a little simpler.
They get classified and categorized in the same boat. And I understand if you have a great engine for a half, it's probably going to
Right.
see its way through to the marathon. But like they are entirely different from a structural damage standpoint, from a energy management standpoint, from a self control standpoint, from a training philosophy even standpoint, it really, they are very, very different.
Well, anyone who can run a good marathon can run a decent half. Anyone who can run a good half is not guaranteed to run a decent full.
Anybody who could run a good 10K can run a decent half.
Yep.
But not if you run a decent 10K. I have no idea what's going to happen to your marathon.
Yeah.
It stops somewhere in there. It stops. Okay. JL.
Do you know that in my lifetime, the half marathon record holder has never been the marathon record holder on the men's side?
The half marathon record holder has never been the marathon record.
In my adult life, since I've been aware of running, it's never been the same.
It's a stat I wasn't keeping track of.
Zerzane Tedeschi, I believe was his name, had an outlier half marathon that no one could touch for years, and he never really put together a full. And that just has kept on. They're not the same as much as we want to classify them as the same. They're not.
Well, yeah, and if you have to run a 57 or 56-minute half marathon now to get the record, like, come on. Yikes. All right. In the marathon, if you want to win a major, you got to be able to throw down a 4:25 at mile 20 to drop the field. It's like, what on earth is going on here?
They're playing with fake money at this point.
All right, this guy must be foreign. JL, he says, Hage, H-E-J. Where is that? Nordic. Hage. A quick question for Q&A. Hi. Sorry if I've missed it in an earlier podcast. My question is about deload weeks. I rarely have to plan them in because life gets in the way and I can miss training because of work and family obligations. Even though I'm aware that during certain weeks when I'm working like 80 hours, I'm not really recovering because stress is stress, right? So I'm in the lucky situation whereby I have been training continuously and often, and now I've felt run down and planned in a deload week. I'm interested to know how you guys approach them. How much volume do you think is good to reduce it by? And what about intensity? Best regards, James.
I think 10 to 20% of volume reduction is enough for most people. But it's directly proportionate to how long you've been going high. If you're going 3 up, 1 down, 4 up, 1 down, 10 to 20% is fine. If you're going 2 up, 1 down, it can be simple as reduce it 10% or just remove a little bit of your quality. If you're going 10 to 12 up, I'm feeling burnt out, I'm going down, you might have to reduce it 50%.
I find
this camera's messing with you now again.
Yeah, it is. I find that I can have a deload week, and on paper, if you looked at my Strava, you wouldn't know it because it's the same mileage as the previous week. But it's the intensity of that week, the sand between the cracks that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
I find that a recovery week now, this is very tenured with decades of running, maybe I do a few less miles of quality on my quality Tuesday, and my long run has a couple miles shaved off or even is the same in mileage, but I just chill. Instead of putting quality in it, I allow myself a nice, easy long run. Okay, for example. So I think you can have a recovery week with the mileage looking almost the same if you're a tenured runner. At this point, just changing the quality portion of my week. Maybe it's a 5 mile a week difference. It's hardly anything.
Yeah.
But it is enough to refresh me. Sometimes I will say, if you can just tell you are underwater and it's been a couple workouts in a row and it's been all week, at that point, I had one of those weeks 2 weeks ago. I went from 62 down to 50. That's like a 20% reduction. I needed it. I needed both.
Yeah.
But when I'm not overtrained or I'm not in like an overreaching phase for too long, I'm a nice balanced training, my mileage can actually look the same.
Mm-hmm.
It can. Maybe a few miles different because I'm cutting a little bit off of my quality session or two. But all my recovery work, my midweek long run work, roughly the same duration. Maybe I'm just chilling a little bit more than I normally would. That's it. What do you think about that?
I think it's the same. So at the peak of my training, when I was trying to do this full time, I would hit about 70 miles per week in a 10 to 15,000 feet of vert. My down weeks were like 62 to 65 miles with 10 to 15,000 feet of vert. Because the difference was instead of running 7 times a week, I'd run 6. But that 6th day, I'd go for an easy long run in the mountains.
Sure. Right.
So like you, it was a reduction in intensity. I removed a quality session and replaced it with an easy long run, but that might be 2.5 hours in the mountains or 2 hours. So my vert was going to be the same still. I would just lose out one run, or I would cut a PM session out or short. So my volume would only change 5 to 8 miles. My time actually might increase if I went easy long,
Right.
but some of it might be bike instead of like one double might be a bike instead of a run.
To
But you have to
complicate.
be you're fit in training when that happens.
Correct.
And you're not doing monster mileage. We're moderate mileage runners.
A safe bet, however, would be like, I know we muddied the waters a little bit, but the safe bet would be like, yeah, have 2 or 3 high weeks and then just cut by 20%. I don't care how you do it, just to be safe. And that probably would work out just fine, keep you available, prevent less likely to get injured.
Yeah.
Just do it anyways, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to pull up. So I looked at this after Boston. I looked at Clayton Young and Connor Mance's Strava. And I was just curious. Now, Connor had a few injuries along the way, so his mileage went up and down a little bit, but I think Clayton had a good build and they run virtually the same sessions. Now, these are very tenured athletes. This is his mileage. Tell me where the down week is. 93, 115, 121, 122, 125. And then as Boston approaches, 3 weeks out, 107, 82, 50 race. Okay. He had up weeks for like 6 weeks in a row, but I guarantee you the stimulus in there had varied based on fatigue. You know what, Clayton? We're not going to hit the quality session today. Go out and put in 10 miles on grass and let those legs charge back up. Connor Mance, very similarly, as I just looked, how he had up and down. He was 125, 114, 114, 125, and then landed the plane 106, 85, 51. They just stayed up.
Mhm.
But the nuances in there, you don't know what those were, but they changed. So
Yeah.
that's when you're tenured, though.
And they're training for a race that requires accumulated fatigue for training. And so when you're and then you look at Jakob, he might just run 160K every week for 12 weeks straight. Because if you're balancing it correctly, you're comfortably fatigued each week. And
Right.
you can do it again, and you can do it again, and you can do it again. But again, that's the difference between a high level pro and the rest of us is we program up and down to stay on top of it. They ride the line to stay at
Right.
the top.
But correct. What I liked about looking at them is I've been a big proponent of like the 3 weeks out, like start backing off for something big. And people think that's far too far out. And then I saw it and they started chill. It started 3 weeks out for them, the gradual landing of the plane. I was like, felt so validated by seeing two of the best who nailed their races, by the way.
And what
Start
did they
three
keep
weeks out.
doing? They kept running workouts.
Oh, yeah. They kept running big workouts.
So they do reduce their volume because you can't reduce both simultaneously in theory and nail it. So
Yeah.
they're
One
like,
of
we need
their
to get on top of our fatigue and we need to stay sharp.
last sessions, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks out, one of their big ones, I'm thinking of stealing it, was an 8-mile tempo followed by 3 by a mile.
And they ripped that 3 by mile.
And they ripped the tempo, really. I mean, they were within themselves. I think they were running even slower than marathon pace, but not much. And Connor always runs faster than prescribed, as I found, like in everything. He's always just gnawing at the pace charts. But
Those
anyways,
two remind me of us too.
really?
I'm Clayton, you're Connor.
How so?
You get the better of me in every single workout. I'm always erring on the side of caution. You're always like, man, I felt it today. I think I went a little too hard on my workout, but I was feeling good. Where they just remind me of like the dynamic that we have in training.
That's cute.
Nothing else other than the dynamic, not the talent, not the PRs, just the dynamic.
Listening to those guys run their mile repeats in alpha flies, like I thought I was like, just because I'm like bigger compared to them, that when my feet slap the ground and it's thwap, thwap, thwap. And then I heard them running alpha flies on the track. I'm like, it's not just me. Even Connor Matt sounds like a rhinoceros running in these things. It made me feel better. All right. Chris Johnson, Chris, fist bump. He's in the metro here. Q&A question for you guys. I've been thinking a lot about when it's time to slow things down from a training perspective and wondering what your thoughts are. When do you think it's time? How do you know when it's time to dial your training back from high level to just trying to be a fit and productive human level? As we know, training takes its toll on the body as well as your relationships, day-to-day life, and possibly overall enjoyment as a human. When is it time to hang it up? Question mark. Just wondering your guys' thoughts. Not saying I'm thinking of doing this anytime soon, but I'd be lying if I said it has never crossed my mind. Is this something either of you ever think about? Thank you. Bracken, the floor is yours.
Yeah. I I don't have any experience with that. Haven't found that to be the case. Listen, if you have to ask, you need a reduction in some capacity. Hanging it up though isn't a thing. You don't require, I mean, you don't retire from health and fitness. So no, you can't hang it up. As I've discovered, if you try to hang it up appropriately, you're going to miss. So you just need to reduce down a little bit.
What do you mean by that? If you try to hang it up appropriately?
Yeah, like what is you can't retire if you're not a pro, right? So what does that look like? It's like, oh, I just need to, and you're not really sure what it means. You're either going to miss high or you're going to miss low, but it doesn't work to just like retire on my own terms because I wasn't doing it as a pro. I'm not I'm not enunciating this well. I'm going to blame jet lag, but it's also a nebulous concept. We're not doing this for anything other than ourselves. And so how do you hang that up, right? You that's just bailing on yourself. So it has to be present in some capacity. I've tried to back away too far, and what happened? My wife sat me down and said, "Listen, I think you need to just like start training for something. We're not our best without some version of it, so don't hang it up." From someone who's gone too far one way, take the advice that I'd rather have you, as Kirk would say, land the plane, come down notch at a time until you start to feel like you're treading water again, rather than just like sink right to the bottom of the pool and say, I'm never swimming again. Like, it doesn't work. It doesn't last. And then you're left with unhappiness.
Yeah, I know in Chris, he's not planning to hang it up. Like he's going to keep moving his body. I know that for sure. But
Yeah.
it's a valid question. Like I think it's more about emotionally detaching from the result or comparing to previous results you've been able to do. There's going
Yeah.
to be a point in time, I think, where you have to relinquish comparison to either yourself or others. I think is really what it comes down to. Your emotional attachment to what you're doing and the results of what you're doing versus what you're actually doing. Maybe that sounded confusing, but I hope it wasn't. Meaning, I'm tired today and I'm going to do some sort of workout on the treadmill when it might have been very structured 2 years ago because I sacrificed sleep and I was crabby to do it. Now I get on there and I do something. It might not have been to the degree in which it was years ago, but I'm still checking sort of the same box. The, the thing is, I think, is just allowing yourself the grace to know that I'm going to say this, your best years are behind you from a statistical performance point of view.
Yeah.
We all are going to come to the realization there in some regard, right? I know my best mile is behind me objectively, no matter what. I have to believe that is true. And I can come to peace with that. That
Yeah.
leaves you with a couple options. Chris, I know you like to be big, buff, and jacked. Do you want to focus on vanity? Great. Go puff your chest out and hit your back squats. And who cares if you run metric stuff? You feel good walking through Walmart, then you've done your job, right? Or what are you tying your fitness to? What emotionally seems to hold the most weight with you? Decide what that is and focus on just that piece of your fitness. You don't need to do it all or have it all now, Chris. Pick the one thing that means the most to you. And that's where you put a bit of your time when sacrificing elsewhere. I think that's maybe a first step.
Yeah. I'm going to take a counter to that.
Please.
So as athletes, we always wondered about the other way of doing things, I believe. Like we had our way, but we're far enough along the line that even if there's another training style or something, like someone might have listened to Matt Novakovic's episode and been like, he just incline hiked his way to crazy fitness, or Christopher Woolley, who did a month of max vert on stairs, or John Albin, who went big on treadmill training and Supershoes to change his running a little bit, or different things that people have done, double threshold training all the way to the end of the line. But we're far enough along our journey that if we pivot to something and it doesn't work, we've wasted some prime years. Well, when you believe that those prime years might be done, or you're at your wits' end of following the thing and life's getting in the way and it's just you're in a rut, I think that's the time to try that other style. Say, listen, I believe my PRs may be done, but let's find out what this other style might do. I think it buys you a second lease on life, and quite often you read stories of people who end up faster as a result because they don't go psycho on it. They're like, I'm going to do double threshold training and I'm going to cut my volume down a bunch and just go in on frequency. And I'm never going to run above a B minus workout. I'm never going to be stressed. I'm never going to be super fatigued. I'm just going to dabble all week long. And like 9 months later, they're an absolute unit. So I believe that most of us who didn't run college or professionally did not actually leave our best days behind the day we thought we did, because there's probably still training out there to be done. So sometimes that pivot, that change of I'm just going to do this entirely different style and do it consistently and not go psycho about it is like a fitness booster.
Would an example of that being like I think Chris really likes, for example, like speed training. He likes intervals. He likes doing that stuff. But then he also knows he needs to go frickin' run the ski hill for an hour and a half because he has to, right?
Right.
Would it be an example where he's like, you know what? I like the track. I'm going to double down. I'm going to go run 2s and 4s and I'm going to do it 2 or 3 times a week. I'm going to do what I enjoy and see where that lands me. Is that an example maybe you were talking about?
Yeah, because why do we have to run the ski hill? Well, it's for a certain race style that we know is looming. Well, if you're not doing that thing anymore, go in on the other side and see what it does, and then come back to the ski hill in 8 weeks and see what's waiting for you there. But when we no longer are bound by a specific race that controls us, we find that we're really free to go about our fitness and happiness however we see fit. And
Mhm.
oftentimes with athletes, you see that when stress or anxiety or the weight of the training is removed, you unlock fitness you didn't have because it was restricted before.
I think there's a whole sector of people who are aging who are just sick of getting their butts kicked and they can't emotionally handle it anymore.
Yeah.
Which is okay, by the way. This isn't, and I'm not saying this is Chris either. They get their butts kicked. They're not. The younger crowd is now surpassing them. They don't feel like they're particularly standing out in any one way anymore, and it's emotionally easier to throw it in,
Yep.
phone a friend, call it in, right? And then you either do one of two things at that crossroads. You either do that, you throw in the towel, so to speak, and emotionally preserve yourself and say, I'm just going to train for life and to be healthy. And that's a great route, right? Or you decide to continue your current path of trying to stay highly competitive. And that's okay if it slips. I can emotionally take that ego hit and still find enjoyment in what I'm doing, even if I know every year when I show up to the same road race, my time is going to be slightly slower than last
Mm-hmm.
year's. You take one of two paths. You either get sick of getting beat and you put your tail between your legs, sort of, and focus on health, or you double down and you rub your own nose in it until that becomes apparent you shouldn't do that either.
Yeah,
That's what I think. It really is a parting of the roads, what I see.
I agree. You prove it right or you prove it wrong, but at least you know.
And the same thing could be with injury. It could be you're in your 20s and you're chronically injured, and now you're just, do I just save my emotional health and pivot? Or do I not? It could be, this example could go for more than just aging. But next question. Aviva. Aviva is crushing her ultras, 6-hour ultras. She's just been running.
It's
Aviva.
long enough.
Aviva sent me and my wife some pasta from her company that she works for, and it is some of the most delicious pasta. I'm not going to force her to do that to everybody, but
But like
Aviva.
one other people.
Pretty good stuff. All right. Aviva says, she also says she doesn't listen to our longer episodes because she doesn't like them. She wants to listen to short episodes. So I'll be like, did you, because she's an avid listener, I'll be like, Aviva, did you listen to the episode? She's like, no, it's too long. Like, Aviva. Some good stuff in these
Just
things.
dose it.
Dose it. Yeah, you got to dose us anyways. She says, don't know if this is a podcast worthy question, but I've been thinking about the How You Warm Up podcast a lot this past week. I directed her to that after seeing her warm up miles were like way, way slow. I was like, are you walking? What are you doing in your warm ups? Because they were so slow compared to the work to be done. I found out she needed to do real work in her warm ups and referred her to that podcast. And now she's taken the advice and it's going much, much better, by the way. The warm ups are helping immensely. She's ready for the work at hand. But she asks, is there a difference between warm up for a workout, like my 12 by a quarter mile or a race, and the ones where you write warm up straight into blank and then straight into a cool down? So what she's asking is, like, often on like a Tuesday interval session, I may say, let's just say her example, 12 by a quarter mile. I will say like warm up and then like stop, dynamic strides, hit the session, recover, hit your cool down. Whereas in like a quality long run, I may say 15-minute warm up, go right
Mhm.
into 6 mile tempo, 15-minute cool down. And she's asking, do I warm up separately for those two? It's a great question.
It is.
What's your take? She already has my answer.
Well, my take is, yeah, you warm up differently for them, but the race is one between the ears. And thus you choose the warm up, yes, that has you prepared for the work at hand physically, but that can be accomplished multiple ways. The purpose of all these different warm ups we do during training is really fundamentally to prepare for preparing for the race. So that on race day, you know exactly what gets you going and ready and confident. That's all it is. The only reason I ever do steady state work before a workout is so that 10 minutes out from the race, when I do a hard 300-meter rep before a short race or a sustained 3 or 4 minute press before a medium or long race, it's so that when I panic in that moment and say, this is so tiring, I shouldn't be doing this, I can look back and say, no, this has worked in the past. I know this primes my system.
Yeah.
It's the only reason I'm doing it during training. It's not really a steady state prior to a workout really isn't going to change my workout, but it's going to change my confidence in trusting the process on race day. So that's again why I advocate playing around with warm-ups all the time. Shorten reps, lengthen reps. Try cutting your jog prior in half. Try doing extra strides. Try going right into it one day. It's so that on race day, you have the option to choose the very thing your mind needs in that moment.
That's great advice. I keep them nearly the same. And I'll tell you why. Okay. Uh, for me, it is roughly a mile of running, and then I go into 3 or 4 by 30 to 45-second pickups. Basically, I'm on for 30, off for 30 to 60, rinse and repeat, just
Yep.
kind of going through gears, right? And whether it's a track session where I'm getting rest or it is even like a 15-minute warm up, long run, go right into steady, I still want to get the systems primed. So even in my warm up, go right into, I will still do the surges in my warm up. The difference is when I say like stop and dynamics and strides, the heart rate gets to come back down. You get to do strides at faster pace and open things up. We are fully recovered to increase the integrity of the rep. But really, the goal is to get the heart rate up, get the body temp up, and get everything sort of loosened, opened, and primed, right? And I kind of do
Mhm.
it the same way no matter what. What would vary if I had a 5K, the intensity of my pickups would be more aggressive than it will be for the marathon, for example. So the intensity of those pickups in the warm up, but the real difference maker is just how available I am to start each of those sessions. And one is going to be a full run recovery, so to speak, into your tempo mid long run. And one is going to be like, hey, my heart rate's all the way back down to the 90s and like, I'm ready to run. So for me,
Yep.
it's just spiking the heart rate, getting to come back down. And I don't care how you do it. Um, but that should still be done in a 15-minute warm up right into something
Right.
of quality. That's where people just sort of miss. I think they run easy for 15 minutes and then all of a sudden press the gas on something and are like, "Oh, that feels terrible,"
Yeah.
which it should. So,
I still I know we did a whole episode on warm-ups, but I still feel like people greatly have great amount of confusion over why they're warming up and what the purpose is and how to do it. So if you'll give me like 2 minutes on not even analogy, just like a description of something. I just want to get it out there and then talk about why I think the way I think about warm-ups. Because I don't think we hit this in the warm-up episode. You cool with that?
yeah, of course.
All right. So with this is so dumb. With Braden's karting, right? Every single time we get to a track in the morning for a race, the protocol is the same. We have to crank the engine up and then let it idle for like 3 to 5 minutes. And what you see happens is when it first starts up, it kind of wants to die a little bit. Like it's been at rest. It wants to return to at rest. And then it finally is like, all right, we're working. And it starts working and it starts blipping up really high. And it's running more ragged and it's running a higher RPM than it should idle at. And you have to just let it get through that moment and then it settles back down. Because if you didn't let it get through that, you would go to press on the gas, it'd already be at an inappropriate RPM for where it is. And now the whole race is going to be run at that, but it's going to start to loosen up and then it's going to drop a little bit. And it may drop to a level you don't want it at. So you have to let it come back to like homeostasis, heart rate up a little bit. It settles in, and then we adjust things on the cart and get it to where we want it to. But you can't do it until it has warmed up, turned over, got fluid through the entire thing, because you don't actually know what it wants to be doing at that moment. And that is exactly what our bodies have to do. We have to get them through that initial, I don't want to move. All right, now I'm moving, but it's actually costly right now because I'm not warmed up. And then everything's been greased, everything's been lubricated, the temperature's up, and now we know exactly where homeostasis is. And we've brought everything up to the level it's about to be used at. So in a vacuum, that's all you need to do. But, and this is where the way I pivot towards my warm-ups is different from yours. My freshman year running at nationals indoor, we were suddenly not allowed to run outdoors. We couldn't leave the venue for whatever reason. I don't remember if it was a storm or what was going on. Credentials weren't being checked, whatever it was. We had to stay in the gymnasium area, and we only had a basketball court to warm up on.
Mm.
For the entire national meet. There's no room to do the things you want to do. And I was so thrown off. I didn't know how to get my engine idling to the level it needed to be at in the time and confines of the physical space that I had to be in. And then we had to go and sit in that dark room with everyone else looking at each other, a 20 by 20 room for 10 minutes prior to the race start, which for me was my most important time of any warm up. And I had a terrible race. And part of it was the race felt physically bad, and part of it was I was a mental wreck. And from that moment on, I started experimenting with how many different ways can I get to the point where I'm idling and the temperature is out exactly where it needs to be, so that no matter what instance I encounter on race day, I know I can get to this point and race confidently. So your way works. You're getting exactly to where you're going to be. And I'm throwing all types of different things at myself. But either way, the end goal is only on race day to have your body temperature to the point it needs to be, and all of your systems idling and primed to where they need to be for the race to start, so that there's no weird spike in anything when the gun goes off. So I know that's a really, really, really long Q&A answer, but I still keep getting these warm-up questions for like, well, why am I really even doing this? Like, I really want people to know this is exactly why. It's the only way to function at your best.
You can't run your best if you haven't primed the systems beforehand. Let the
No.
car do its thing, rev the engine idle, da da da. It's not possible. You will not race your best. I would say up to even a marathon, maybe. I hate to say it, depending on your conditioning. And in Brakken's case, if I was stuck in the gymnasium, what would I do? Or like for the marathon, I don't really want to put 15 minutes of warm up on my legs before the marathon.
Nope.
At that point, it's not going to be a great return on investment. So what does Kirk DeWindt do? Kirk wears an extra layer on his bottom. I'm going to show up in pants, even if it's 70 degrees. I'm going to show up with a long sleeve, and I am going to maybe go 8 to 10 minutes, but I'm going to be sweating by minute 2. And then my core body temp is going to rise, and I'm going to get an easier heart rate response on my pickups. And I'm going to have all my systems primed in 8 minutes instead of 15, because I cheated the system. I overdressed, got things really warm. For me, that works, for example. In the gymnasium, I might have put on a stocking cap and my sweats and at least got sweating and warm and
Yeah.
move and working because of what I forced on myself, which is clothing. And so, for example, there's like some hacks there, which we could go down the line of that conversation, but like that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah. I just wanted to set the tone for why are we really needing to warm up.
Yeah.
The fact is you will not perform without it. So you have to know through training exactly what you have to do on race day.
My goodness, somebody can knock on the door, which people don't do these days. I can jump up from my couch and go run to the door and be like, God, I'm out of breath. That felt terrible.
Right.
Like I wasn't even ready for that. That's
Yeah.
a mini version of what happens when you just decide, like, I'm just going to sit around and wait in line for the porta potty and then go to the start line and be like, yeah, you're so far beyond like your obvious best right now because you're not ready. All right. Should we move on? Did you want to add more to that?
No.
Okay. David, hey guys, I'm a newish listener, started last September, but I'm loving it so far. I'm also relatively new to the sport, been taking it seriously since 2023. I wish I had found y'all earlier. I have a potential Q&A question, but maybe it's been answered before. How do you know when it's time for a new pair of running shoes? I have wide feet and used to get new shoes every 150 to 200 miles because I'd rip holes in the side. I finally found some wider shoes that don't do that, but now I don't know when to ditch them for new running shoes. I feel like industry standard is 300-ish miles for daily trainers and like 100 for race shoes, but I believe Kirk mentioned having racked up hundreds of miles in some Alpha Flies. So when should I throw a pair away?
The industry has changed so much for what's acceptable in a shoe where it's now anywhere from 30 to like 1,000 miles.
I would argue even more than 1,000 miles for
Yeah.
some crazy
And
stuff.
it can change model to model. Lisa runs in the Pegasus and the Vomero religiously. And anyone who's running the Pegasus knows that you can sometimes run through a Pegasus in like 90 or 100 miles. And sometimes you get like 300 or 400 miles out of a pair of Pegasus, depending on the line, what model year it is. And so there's no like set rule anymore other than you have to go by feel. So the easiest way to do it, the absolute simplest, which isn't that simple, is you have to have your next shoe waiting. And once a week, you put the shoe on. And as soon as you feel a drastic difference between the old shoe and the new shoe, like, oh, this is definitely different, it's time to switch over. The other way is go until something bugs you. When my hips start aching, I need new shoes. That is a surefire sign. But otherwise, just compare the old and the new.
When you're tenured and very in touch, it's obvious.
Yeah.
When you're new and not super in touch because you don't have the experience, it's not as obvious. People also like to decide that how do I determine if a shoe is been used to its extent and needs to be traded out because of the tread on the bottom? Like, oh,
Yep.
the tread on the bottom is wearing off. Reality, I don't really care. Or the tread looks fine, so that shoe should be fine. When all
Uh-huh.
reality, like stick your hand in your shoe, and if you can feel where your ball of your foot and your toes and your heel are like super condensed compared to like where your arch is and other things, like the foam has compressed notably. If you put your hand in there, you're like, holy smokes, like we want some of that in a shoe. We want some break and we want it to form to the foot, and it will, and it does. You put your hand in there and you're like, holy smokes, the ball of my foot is like way sunk in.
Yeah.
And if you're at the point of questioning enough to feel that, I think it's notable. I put on an old pair of shoes, I stick my hand in, I'm like, holy smokes, that baby's bottomed out in my heel and it's bottomed out in my forefoot. That foam has done its job. It has taken its beating, its time. Even if the tread on the bottom, which traditional logic people look at the tread, looks fine. I don't really care what the tread looks like.
No.
It has to do with the compression of the foam on the inside of the shoe, which you can't see generally.
Tread only matters when high grip situations matter.
Correct.
And oftentimes you'll just wear through a tread. It has nothing to do with the performance of the shoe.
Oh, you froze on me there. I got worried.
Uh-oh.
No,
Yeah,
you're
no,
good.
really feel the new one, feel the old one. You'll feel a difference. As soon as you go, uh-oh, this feels weird. That's it. Those are
And I
now
love your
lawn cutting shoes.
I love your comparative of like similar shoe, or even if it's a different model or make, just going for a run in that and seeing how much better do I feel or worse or the same afterwards.
Yeah. The moment something weird on me or Lisa starts happening, we just go to the next shoe. And if it goes away immediately, then you know.
Right. All right. Uh,
I just want to reiterate, like you can go back to a shoe. So you can think the shoe's done, buy the next one and realize, oh, I still had mileage and go back to keep running in it. Like this isn't a we have to throw it away moment.
yeah, I agree with that. Anything else with that?
No. Just like don't stress over it.
It's fair. It's fair. I do know though, like if you're in like kind of my legs are just feeling a little bit heavy consistently, or sometimes you might not even realize like, yeah, my shoes are totally beat. I'm just taking more impact now, and so
Yep.
it's time. Like just if you're in a bout where you're like, I just feel dull often. I mean, it could be a number of factors, but shoes would be one I'd look at. Then start to think, maybe I have more miles in these than I realize, or something like that.
Mafates have a natural curve to them, and it's a known thing that that curve flattens out as the foam compresses. If you start thinking, I just don't feel as fast lately, or I'm taking more effort, my heart rate's a little higher, you may have just lost the mechanical advantage of that shoe.
Hmm.
So you're right. Sometimes just it doesn't have a big thing. You're
Yeah,
just feeling a little off for a while.
I feel that way about vapor flies.
Yeah.
They just slowly degrade. It's not. It's just like suddenly there's no. It's not giving you anything anymore. It's interesting. You just feel flat. That's how I feel about them, anyways. All right. Matt says, question maybe for the show. When is it okay to make a race excuse? uh, if
The night before.
afterwards, immediately,
Mhm.
post to all social channels and definitely write paragraphs about it. Paragraphs, stories. Make multiple posts about it, actually.
Try to get interviewed at the finish line.
Yeah. And then make sure every excuse base is covered in your post race recap.
Yes.
Just kidding. All right. Uh, when is it okay to make a race excuse? If I'm doing that before a race, am I setting myself up for failure? And is there a difference between writing the excuse in my training log versus posting on social media? For context, I had a sick kid last week and couldn't train as much as I wanted. And then I've been sick for 4 days. I just jogged for 30 minutes on Wednesday for my first run in 6 days and felt blah. I have a race I should be competitive in Saturday based on last year's results, but I'm uncertain how I will feel by race day. Thanks.
You know how you always say, I don't care about your feelings?
Go say it to him.
I don't care about your mishaps. And I'm talking like from me to myself, from me to my athletes. On race week, who cares? It is a fake world. You can get no sleep all week long and go out and win the world championships. All we heard about for like 2 straight Olympics was how miserable the athlete village was.
Mm-hmm.
It was 100 degrees in the rooms. They don't have air conditioners in London. The food is terrible. The walls are thin. The beds are literally made out of corrugated cardboard to try to save money and keep athletes from fornicating. All of this is happening. And you know what happened every single event? A world record.
Mm-hmm.
They all have some sort of jet lag. They all have some sort of issue sleeping. You know what they can't do is just say, well, maybe I'll be off. So my point is not that I don't care about your feelings. It's that you shouldn't care about them on race week. Invariably, things go wrong on race week. It doesn't mean you can't PR. I truly mean that. And if you're on the edge of maybe it's going to affect me and maybe it won't, the things that's going to push that stone one way or the other over the edge is your mindset. And so I'm not a huge like, oh, mind over matter kind of guy, but on race week, absolutely.
Hard stop.
Hard stop.
Okay.
You can take the logical side. I'm just doing the impassioned, I don't care side. Like, I really don't care what happens on race week. The job is to race. And if it's bad enough that you think you need to say like a post about it, then don't race.
Yeah.
Everyone's dealing with something. That's what I learned at the high level watching people. Everyone has something going on. No one cares.
I think what a great opportunity. And I'm not joking.
It's a nicer way to say it, Kirk.
No, well, and he's already had his race. He sent this over on March 12th. So I
And
guess
this isn't directed at him. This is everyone.
literally directed at the annoying masses that are everybody on social media that
Yeah.
is a runner that has an excuse to be made.
Who seems to think that everyone else wants to know that their life isn't perfect against a backdrop of everything else is perfect. No, everyone has something going. No one cares.
Listen to you. Tough love. I love it. That's really my take.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. And I learned this a number of times through racing sick in particular or not having a perfect lead in. What an awesome opportunity for you to go out with the lack of pressure, actually, and
Yeah.
only the element of possibility. You don't need to tell anybody beforehand. You don't need to worry about social media or anything, or even what your wife or husband thinks. It is an opportunity for you to show up and see if you can and see if you will, even when the circumstances aren't great. And guess what? If they don't go great, you actually have a legit reason. Wonderful. You were sick. It's actually best case scenario. You race well, you're a hero to yourself. Don't go
Yeah.
bragging now. You race like shit? Well, you know why. It's the best case scenario. Going into Grandma's half marathon last year, I was sick as a dog. I didn't even know that morning if I was going to race. And it took the pressure off in a weird way instead of put the pressure on. It said, it's going to be okay. Like at this point, it is what it is. If I fail, I know why. But if I succeed, I've done something special.
Yeah.
And so it kind of is the best case scenario sometimes to have an imperfect lead in, but the potential to overcome it and do great things. And so if you can look at it that way, I can understand if I didn't race well, why? And if I did race well, that's a boy waiting for you at the finish line. So I think it's best case scenario. Sometimes spin it that way anyways. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, yeah, but no, I don't disagree. Everyone loves a hero. Nobody likes a complainer or an excuse maker. You have to remember that there's other people in the field too, and they all have their own thing going on. And the last thing they want to hear if you beat them is,
I was sick.
I was sick. And the last thing they want to hear if they beat you is, well, I was sick. Like, don't cheapen it for them. Don't rub it in their face. Let everyone else around you do the talking for you in everything in life. That is the best way to go through life. Show up, burn the village down, ride off into sunset, and it builds your lore. Let
And
everyone else talk about who that was and how it happened. They'll do it for you.
I agree with that. And now, I will also say though, there is definitely a sense of obligation to, even if you have 4 followers. Okay. I don't really care, but there's a sense of investment from your friends, family, followers. There's some pretty cool, tight knit communities, and you feel like people are invested in your journey genuinely, hopefully. And so you do feel some sort of obligation as well to like tell people how it went. I
Yep.
understand that actually, especially because people, and in our shoes, people listen to us, we proclaim our goals, and then we have to like follow up with it. So we don't have a choice. But point being is it is okay to have a great race and say, I had a great race and leave it at that. And it's okay to have a bad race and say, didn't feel good, it wasn't my day, and leave it at that without extending it. There is an acceptable amount of race
Yeah.
excuse, or at least just saying, wasn't a great day for me, fell short. Next time I'll get it, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
difference between that and then, well, my kid was sick and you're starting to write the excuses. And then at that point, you've already hit the unfollow button and I couldn't care less about what the heck actually happened. So
Yeah.
there's a different way to do it.
Well, and there's a difference between after the race, someone's chatting with you or you're making a post or something, you're saying, I had no idea how this week would go because things have been a struggle, but oh my goodness, did it come together and it made it that much sweeter. To great race, despite not getting any sleep this week and my kids were sick. Can't believe I even made it here. Like there's a difference in tone and there's a difference in how people receive those things. And because we're in the business of talking for a living, we are oversharers. And so
Yeah.
we are acutely aware of how this works, but no one cares. No one cares. Just get it done. I just don't want people to think that they need an excuse on race week. If
Mhm.
things go wrong with sleep, who cares? Your fitness is already built. Your body can fire a one-off bullet through a lot of distress. So just have trust that you have earned the right to do well despite not having a perfect lead in, because the perfect lead in almost never exists.
And by the way, Matt, this is a great question. And a lot of people wonder about the
Yes.
exact same thing. This is not directed at you, or I don't even know what ended up happening with this for you, but like, this is part of my own internal rhetoric when things don't go correctly, right? I have to remind myself of this very conversation myself. So
Yeah.
just so you know, fantastic question. I feel like we're being a little harsh, and
Yes.
it's not directed towards anybody. It's literally like, it is what it is. It's fact. All right.
Everyone deals with it.
Correct. Do you remember? You remember? I remember calling you even. This is when we first started working together, and I had to go to Las Vegas, and I woke up race morning, and I was toast, fever, sore throat,
Like not
headache.
about ready to go to the airport and you said, "Should I go or not? I need to leave right now if I'm going."
I need to, and I was like, I feel horrible. And you said, go. You said, go. I don't care. Go. You really did. That's what you said.
Yeah.
And I felt terrible. And I went there and I had a great race. Ended up on the podium behind Cody Moat and VJ Jones and had a great battle with VJ. It was still there when I needed to. Anyways, it was just so interesting because the way I woke up, the way the shakeout run went in Las Vegas when we got there the night before, the way the warm up felt, my ears were so plugged, I couldn't even hear. I felt like I was underwater. I was like, I don't even know what planet I'm on. But the body remembers. The body did what it knew to do because of all the bank deposits. That money didn't fall out of my bank
Yeah.
account because I got a cold the day of a race or two. Anyways, and I remember that distinctly, and that was a turning point for me with being sick. There's an obvious thing where it's like, yeah, I have a 103-degree fever and I can't function,
Right.
versus like, I'm not at my best and I can tell I'm compromised. Let's see what my body gives me.
Kirk, I have been an excuse maker in my life. So this is not me saying high horse here. And I want people to realize that.
Sounds like it.
What at the 20, maybe 15, 2014, somewhere in there, 2016, Breckenridge Spartan Beast. Lisa and the kids were up all night throwing up before the race. I got practically no sleep. I felt like I was getting sick. I mean, literally, I went out to go get my packet and do my warm up run. I come back to the condo, open it up there. Lisa is standing there holding two crying babies in her hands. None of the three are wearing clothes because everyone's vomited on their clothes and the clothes are gone. There are no clean clothes. They're all in the unit dryer that we have, the washer and dryer. And I said, I am so sorry. What do you want me to do? She's like, just go race. And I went to the line, and throughout the village, at the line, during the warm-ups, after the race, I told anyone who asked how the race went, how terrible my night was and that everyone's sick and I think I'm sick and I was just off. In a awards finish, which I don't make the awards because I had a terrible race, and
That's not what you're supposed to say.
Robert Killian's walking with his kid, and the kid stops, and Robert just holds him over, and the kid's explosively vomiting on the side of the path. And he's like, "It's okay. I know it's been a long night." And he looks at me and he goes, "Man, big night." And he puts him back in the stroller and they walk away. And that was the only word he said about it the whole time. We had the exact
How did
same
Robert
night.
Killian finish?
I don't know what he finished. And you
Okay.
know what? I also didn't know that anyone was sick and no one else there knew that he had anything going on. In that moment, I was like, yep, that's how you handle it.
And you told everybody.
I told everyone, I was like, you won't believe the night I had. And
Uh.
no one knew about it until the kid puked in front of everybody. So again, we're not on our high horse. We are speaking from experience that it's everyone. So no one cares.
There's also body of work, like, oh god, we're really dragging this conversation out, but, like, when you're newer to something, you feel like if it doesn't go perfectly, you need an excuse, you need to be able
Right.
to justify what happened, whereas if I've proven myself enough, Bracken, if I go have a bad marathon, nobody's gonna care, like, it's
Yeah.
not gonna be like, "Yeah, Kirk is in shape, he sucks," like, no, it happens, right? I've earned the right. So the tenured athletes tend to be much
Right.
more short and direct with and objective, but the newer athletes, the ones who don't feel justified yet, those athletes are the ones who make those
Yeah.
Instagram posts. Let's move on. Okay, let's
Well,
move
I
on
do
to the
want
thing
to
moving
say
on.
one thing
Oh
because what
god.
you said was perfect.
Okay.
When I say no one cares, I don't mean no one cares. I mean that no one's going to change how they care about you as a result of this race.
Right.
A lot of us care about your marathon and care for you and want it to go well. And if it doesn't go well, none of us are going to be like, you know what? He has been a fraud this whole time. I knew I didn't like him. We don't care in that way.
There might be
We want to
somebody.
see you succeed because we care for you, but we won't care less about you if you run 225 or 425. Like it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
425 might require some sort of conversation.
Yeah, but we won't care about you any less.
Right, right. All right.
Now we can move on.
Yeah, I got 4 to 6 minutes and then we're cutting this
Let's
thing.
do one
So
more and be done.
maybe 2. All right. Ryan Grieve. Ryan. I trained both Ryan and his son Michael. I got the whole family. It's a
That's really
beautiful
cool.
thing. It's wonderful. Yes, and Ryan or Michael had a question earlier, so this is a full circle family moment. Ryan
It's a
says,
good thing
"Kirk,
we answered them both in the same episode.
that's true. Listening to the reunion podcast. Um, oh, when you got back from your trip. In regards to trail super shoe testing, what happens to super shoes when submerged? I get you can run through mud, but what happens when you do a dunk wall or a nipple deep stream walk? What
Nipple
happens to
deep.
supers? That's a nice
It's a good
descriptive.
question.
It could have been a
The
shin
answer,
deep. It would have accomplished the same thing, wet your shoes, but
yeah. The answer is 90 some percent of the time, nothing. The foam is the foam. The plate is the plate. The question is, does the upper allow water to leave? And does the bed of the shoe, does the sock liner, does the insole, whatever it uses, is that open cell or closed cell? If that is open cell, that will absorb water and hold it, and you will squish and you will slide a bit in the shoe. If it's closed cell, it's just going to push the water straight back out. There is an issue with the Hoka Tecton X3 with this. Some people think it's the footbed, some people think it's the insole, but it retains water and it's notably heavier. You do not want weight. These trail super shoes are already not light. The uppers these days generally all drain. But in theory, the superness of the shoe does not change when wet. It's just if you have a small amount of spongy material below your foot or not. And that will annoy you. And it may have a negative effect on the performance of the shoe, but it won't change the foam or the plate.
it's not going to be any less effective than a normal shoe will be less effective after going through water. You might get a little bit of loosening of the upper, maybe the laces stretch a
Right.
hair or the fit feels sloppy, but the ability for that shoe to be super, nothing's changing there, in my opinion.
Now, I'm
Okay.
also just going to put a PSA in there. I still, after all of this work and my love of these shoes, I still don't think trail super shoes are there yet.
Okay.
Unless you are on a beautifully smooth trail, at which point I would go road shoe. So
Right.
Don't pump money into it quite yet, expecting magic. It's not there.
So this next question I'm going to bypass. I'm going to read it and not answer it, and you'll see why. This is from Jeremy Whitley, and he says, "We're having 80 plus degree days in North Carolina already. Is it worthwhile to have a training Tuesday talking about training in the heat as we move into spring and summer? People may benefit from by altering the design of their upcoming sessions to get the most out of circumstances and remain true to the spirit or intent of the session block, etc. Your experience is appreciated." Jeremy, that's our next training Tuesday. We're going to cover that then. Okay? That's it. That's how I'm going to answer
4
that one.
days from now, it is done.
And then this will be the last one. This at least clears our cache all the way up to May 1st. And we got to answer this in 2 minutes. Okay. For a Q&A, or maybe shoot me a quick figure it out and keep training, you dingus answer. All right. Jake. Jake says, training for a half marathon, PR, hoping to confidently sub 125. And during my taper week today, I just time trialed a 5:14 mile. This spring, my 5K was 18:45, and my previous half PR was 125, 55-ish. Okay. He says, various calculators say I probably am sandbagging that 5K time, but I guess I've always feared the distance, and I don't usually race it. For reference, I am an aerobic addict and have no problem throwing a trail 50K on the calendar, and debuted a 100-mile last fall at Javelina in the record heat. I guess I'm wondering why I appear to dip faster and then slower than projected as distances alternate. Faster miler compared to my 5K, slow 5K compared to my half, fast half compared to my full. It's been a while. Apparently, naturally good at ultras, though. Is this common? A sign of just needing to race more, race way more?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. If it were just mile and ultra were good and the middle was rough, I'd have a different answer. If it was just shorts bad, longs good, or vice versa, I'd have a different answer. But if it alternates distances, it's simply experience. You haven't had enough cracks at it, and you might not have had the pack to run with.
So, like his mile is notably better than what his proven 5K is. But his 5K would tell him that he'd be a slower half marathoner than he is. So
Yes.
none of it's making sense, right? Okay.
It's jagged rather than linear in the wrong direction either way.
I'm going to say something though, and maybe this, and we can't open this can, I'm sorry, and I don't think it's even worth opening, but there is a sector of athletes that can do the extreme ends, but not the middle very well. Like the
Correct.
VO2 max, not even threshold, maybe threshold's the right word. I
Middle
don't
distance
know.
and ultra.
There is a weird sector of people, and you're not weird, but I can't figure out physiologically what it is, where you may be able to run an 800, a mile, a 10-minute race, but when it comes to like 5K, 10K, hour long, like there's like this black hole in your fitness.
Yeah.
Gone. I've seen this multiple times.
Yeah.
Why? Is it just emotional? Like I can bear down for a mile, but then I can't stay engaged for a 5K. But the half is comfortable enough where I can sit in it and it's fine. It's like a really interesting thing I've seen on occasion.
I think it's when people have a big difference between their aerobic and anaerobic threshold.
Yeah.
I can handle anaerobic, but the things that put me slightly below it are very costly because I'm not close to aerobic there.
Hmm. That's probably
But
it.
because he's mile up, 5K down, half marathon up, marathon down, ultra up, I'm saying he just hasn't raced enough to even know his athlete trend yet.
Fair. But you do agree there's a sector of people who
Yes.
fall into this for some reason.
If everyone on the earth ran a 1 mile, a 5K, and an ultra, I would rank best in the mile and then the ultra and then the 5K and then the marathon.
Yeah,
It would the middle is a black hole for me, for sure. That's
yeah.
aerobic capacity.
You wouldn't cleanly trend better or worse as the distance got longer. It would be like a very confusing.
I would trend worse and worse and worse, and then I'd start getting better.
Bizarre, isn't it?
Is
So I don't know if that helps. I guess that is really the answer. Is like just exposure, I think, to learning the distance and your body's
for sure.
ability. Yeah, energy management. Okay. Well, that's all she wrote, folks. And I'm going to apologize to two people. I'm going to apologize to somebody named Damien. Damien, we didn't get the question you sent out on May 1st. And just last Friday, Steven. Sorry about that, Steven. Didn't get to yours, but they will be in the next one.
Very good.
Very good. Anything you want to close with?
Kirk, you are entering don't screw it up territory.
Not yet. 5 weeks. We're not quite there. 3
In
weeks.
a marathon, I counted that.
I'm going for my first 22 miler Saturday on
This
my
is why I
birthday.
say it.
You want to know what I'm doing on the 22 miler?
I do.
I'm going to do 10 miles up, 8-mile tempo, 4 miles down. That's my plan. we're supposed to have like 25 mile an hour northwest winds, and the stuff's blowing in. But I'm gonna go into the wind for that 10 miles out, and then I'm gonna try to see if I can't figure that out somehow. But I'm gonna try to do that, and I'm gonna try to run marathon pace, roughly, maybe even a little slower for the tempo portion. So I can't decide what I want to do for effort there, but that's going to be my 22. Simple.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think that that's why I said you're entering the don't screw it up phase, because everyone gets 4 to 6 weeks out and they try to grab what they can grab before they have to back off.
Yeah, that's not, I mean, I'm not grabbing. I
I'm
need
not
to
saying you
progress.
are. I'm saying this is that phase.
But what
And
I
a
have is
lot of people
this.
can relate to being 5 weeks out from a marathon.
I'm going to go 22 this weekend. I'm going to back off next weekend. I'm going to go 22 again, 3 weeks out. Probably no quality in that 22, actually. The last one, I think I'm just going to get steady time on feet. And then I don't want to leave my race there. That's what I don't want to do 3
Yep.
weeks out. And then that'll be it. So 2 22ers, an 18, a 20, a 22, a 22, and a couple of 16-mile trail runs with 2,000 feet of gain in between, real chill. That's what I'm doing.
There we are.
All right. We got to go.
See ya.
Bye.